Nobody expects bitter to come at you, ever, but it does. And when it hits, we get the choice to choose it. That's what Endurance Diaries is. It's all about post-traumatic growth and resiliency that comes from life being life.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Ashley, and today's episode feels especially timely as we head into the holiday season, a time that can bring out the full range of emotion. And for some, that may be gratitude and connection, and for others, it may be stress and loneliness and comparison, or even bitterness. And oftentimes, it is a mix of them all. My guest today knows that tension well. Emily Kile is a human behavior expert, the founder of Workzbe, and author of Bitter to Better, a story of grit, grace, and the neuroscience of not giving up. I just love that title. Emily is trusted by people and teams around the world, from Fortune 500 companies to healthcare systems and banks, universities, and professional sports organizations, helping them understand what's happening from the inside out, from the brain to the heart, to strengthen accountability and build healthier cultures. In this conversation, we're going to dive into Emily's journey, the life experiences that shaped her work and ultimately inspired her to write the book Bitter to Better, which speaks to people in so many different seasons, whether you're navigating a life transition or leading a business through uncertainty, or just simply a growth minded reader who appreciates understanding the why behind human behavior. So, with all of that, Emily, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm just honored to be on the podcast with you. And we've talked for a while, and now you've become like a dear friend, like a soul sister to me. So it's my honor.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate you and your friendship and just this connection. And I'm so excited for you in the season. And as you know, this podcast is about the power of our stories. And so I'd love to start by giving listeners a glimpse into your journey, because so much of what you write about in Bitter to Better comes from that lived experience. And I mentioned earlier just this tension of emotion that many of us feel this time of year, especially as we go into the holidays. And for you, there's an added layer with your book launch. So you have built a career helping people and organizations grow through your work with Workzbe. And even that has such a powerful backstory, with the name coming from a conversation with your son. So I'd love to start there. I'd love if you would share that moment and the question that he asked you that really shifted your perspective, and how that awareness of what it means to be human became part of your why behind writing the book.
I love how you led that up. It was so beautiful, but and it's so true. So, I was at a healthcare system and I was crushing it on all levels, and I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And it's like I find people that like they want to climb a ladder, and that's where I was. I was wanting to climb this ladder, and I thought if I did more, I would become more. I'd get more leadership. I'd get more influence. And it was like I was getting accolades and I was getting like atta girls and I was getting named top 10 in the nation in wellness. Like I was getting all these things. But whenever I came home, I was I wasn't able to be present for my family because I was pouring into something that wasn't pouring back into me. And I'm not saying that all the time work is gonna pour back into you, but, like, it was draining me at the point through some inefficiencies and certain things along the way, but I do want to say that that job was what I needed. I took a secretary job to work my way up to just and I had to prove myself, and I was in that "I'll show you" mentality, which I write about in the book is actually not as healthy as we want it to be. So I come home one day, and I'm sitting on the back porch with my beautiful son. He's 8 years old at the time. And we're talking about Pokemon and like flying cars, and if I would be a Pikachu or a Bulbasaur or whatever I'm going to be. And then he just like looked at me and he's like, he's always loved quality time and just getting to sit, but I haven't been able to be present with him. And then he's like, Mama, he's like, what if you could be a human being instead of a human always working? And I'm like,
Right to the
child,
heart.
like, let's dagger twist everything with it. And I'm like, okay, let's get curious on it. What would that look like? And that really helped me to open my eyes to that we're a human at home, work, and play. I was preaching wellness. I was preaching exercise and eating right, but I was not like the mood and was not there. I was not the social connection was not there. And I was striving again to climb up a ladder that I'll say God didn't design me to climb up. And so I was getting bitter at the whole entire situation. But from a reset and a relook, and then also being a person of faith, God is like finally during that season too, he gave me the word patience. And I've had it twice. And I've had it once with starting a business and one ending it like doing a divorce. And those were the hardest seasons, I will say, but thus far they've set me up for some of my greatest seasons. But the human side of it, and there's this verse too in the Bible that talks about renewing your mind. And actually, what I did is I got ticked at the Bible because I got ticked at my kid. So I got to go to the next thing. I'm like, he's wrong. I'm right. Let's figure out how I'm right. And I can like bump the Bible across his head. Nope. Southern making in its finest. And I looked at and I was frustrated with I didn't feel like Jesus was like, "Hey, you should take care of your body," which he does say that. He does say that. But he says you should renew your mind. And so I had to really get curious on the mind, and that's where I got into the neuroscience, which is what I write a lot about in the book is helping people understand what's going in their brain so that they don't feel crazy, so that they can actually get better because bitter is also like it's a chemical cocktail that can keep us there. And so understanding that along the way.
So, I want to ask you about bringing together faith and science because I think that that's something where a lot of people are kind of maybe at odds with, right? But how do you weave in the both and how does it actually together help people grow and heal and go through different challenges in life?
So the one thing is that both of them take faith. So even in science, it takes faith in that I hate when people say that a study proves something. Studies don't prove, they just show.
Mm.
That's the reason why we have like the contraindications or we write on the back end of studies on like, hey, we're gonna take a great guess. And what I've said is I did faith and I did life with faith and I did life without faith. And there are things that I'm not saying that the Bible is a science book. It's not. I do not think it's but I think whenever we look into it, we can learn from it, and that's kind of where how my story is kind of went along the way, is that I think the Bible should say something it should say, and then I read and then I learn about the neuroscience. I'm like, "Oh, no, this is actually wit." And that's the thing is even if you it's the wisdom that can lead it. Both of them are meant to be transformational. And that's what I think too is reason why I say I'm notorious for saying this and ticking a few people off, but I say knowledge is not power. I say knowledge and action is, and that is called wisdom.
Mm.
And so in science, we can learn about a lot of things, but if it's not applicable to anything, it's useless. And that's the same thing with faith. And for me, it's this peace that passes understanding. It's a way to offload what we're thinking all into something greater. In the book, I write about it. You don't have to be a person of faith. I've had one of my dearest friends is an atheist that helped like teach me so much about life and how to cry and how to feel. I've had actually during the divorce, one of my dear friends is a Wiccan, and she even threatened to curse my ex. And I'm like, I'm going to rely on my Jesus on this one. But she taught me so much about cortisol that I talk about in the book. Like, so that's the thing is that I found that it's a part of my identity and it's something, and I like that it's a part of me. And here's the thing I will always be honest. I may be wrong, but I'm okay with being wrong with faith. Because I think in that science, even in science, we may be wrong. And I'm gonna go back and maybe 10 years, I'll look back on the studies that I put all throughout the book, and maybe they might be right, they might be wrong. There might be like controversy on 'em. It's okay. But at this given time, this is the evidence that I have. And from the data that I have around, I'm going to say, this is how I'm going to walk my life.
Mm. It's so good. Also, I wanna go to going through that process a little bit when you're thinking about your why behind the book. Some of these concepts that you share, it can actually speak to people whether you're a person of faith or not. Why these different audiences? What about their experiences or just something that transcend that's just, in our own humanity, right? What about that feels important to you to speak to and not just, "Hey, it's only for this one person here."
I think it's because it's actually what I've also did in work, as well. So most of the work I'm not around people of faith. But what something I actually write about Dr. Calloway in the book, and Dr. Calloway, he always taught me this. He goes, "You can tell my faith about how, by a few little words like saying blessed, or there's some sayings that you like faith people know from one another." But the thing that, he also taught me, he goes, "Jesus never came into the room and said, 'Hey, I'm Jesus, look at me.'
Mm,
He just showed up and he did."
that's
And
so good.
so that's how as I joked about like slapping the Bible across my kid's head, like I'm not that style. Like I do want to go into it and to like use it as like a purpose driven book for me to like to navigate life on. But within this, like I want to influence and I'm faith curious. Like I just know how again, it's my bias, me personally. I've been through a lot of transitions. And I have just seen, and that's the audience that I grab at people that are hurt, that might be bitter. Like, I don't know how to do this life without, because everything gave me the reasons to be bitter and to stay bitter and to stay angry and to hate people. And I even had my atheist friend ask me this. He goes, "Would you still be the same person you were, like even if you didn't have faith?" I was like, "I don't think I would." I was
Mm.
like, "Because I need Jesus so I don't go to jail." I was like, "I listen to Christian music so that I can like renew my heart and to also know like top performers we've also found it's like they're so hard on themselves." And that's what I think the faith story does specifically within in Christianity is it's like you're loved, you're valued, like you're chosen. I don't think as faith leaders sometimes we say that as much. It's more like you're going to hell. Like that's what growing up sometimes like, but it's such a love story. And so for all the audiences, it's even what I say whenever I write it, it's like if it bothers you, like rename it Emily's God.
Mm,
But it's just like, just experiment with it. Just try it on, but it's not something I wanna push at people. I
yeah.
just want them to understand that this is my story, and my story will not be the same as yours. But within regards to it, knowing that I wrote it through the lens of faith, and I can't take that out of me, just how I've not asked my Wiccan friends to take their thought process out of them, or I'm not trying to have my Buddhist friends take it out of them. I think faith is so important. And yeah, I'm going to say I'm Team Jesus and I think he's going to win it all. But hey, I might be wrong, but I'm okay with fighting for Team Jesus.
And I think the thing too about our stories is that even if somebody doesn't resonate with that belief, I believe there's so much more that connects us than disconnects us whenever we learn different parts in our story, right? Where there may be something in that story as transitioning from you all of the success that you had at this part of your career and then what inspired you to start your own company in that way in the work you're doing there and some of those challenges. Somebody may say, okay, I can listen, I can resonate to that thing and let me connect there. And
Mhm.
oftentimes it's like if you just find that one place of connection there, then it just opens up so many more possibilities.
Yeah. And that's the thing is the based off of self-determination theory, DC and Ryan is like probably my favorite and it's competency, autonomy, relatedness. And so I know a lot of my nerdy crowd also has an issue sometimes within the faith world. And so even my editors, we had 75 people pre-readers that looked through it and people on my team. There's even people on my team that are not of faith. And so I had one specific person like I trust go through it and be like, where's this too Jesus-y? Where am I throwing up Jesus instead of showing up Jesus? And then I also had people of faith and saying, where am I dialing back my God? Because I'm afraid. And like, so I wanted to keep it where it could be faith curious, but it's also not beating you over the head with the Bible. It's just my story. Take it for what it is. If it makes you think differently, I'm not gonna be mad at it. Well, that's why I wrote the book. It's for people, it doesn't have to go on the faith story anywhere. It is not a step-by-step guide to get from bitter to better. It has practices that I believe if you do, you will naturally be going from bitter to better based on physiology, based on faith, based on my life experience, psychology. There's a lot of nerdiness in there as well. So it's a mix of faith and nerd.
So, take us back to when you first decided to write the book, because from what I understand, writing a book was never it was not on the bingo card. So, take us there, and what parts of your own story do you hope that others can connect to feel seen when they read?
Yeah, so I didn't want to write a book. I have dyslexia. I hate writing. I hate grammar. I literally have somebody on my team to help with all the grammar side of it. I literally just got one of my PhD assignments back and it says it's too conversational. I was like, come on now. I hate writing with everything in me. But so going through a nasty divorce that I would not wish on any of my enemies. And through that, through therapy, we just kept talking. And actually, for the divorce, it actually taught me a lot because, and prior, I should go back to that. HR taught me a lot because HR is document, document, document. Then you get in a divorce and it's like document, document, document. And then I'm like, I have all these documents. Let's make meaning out of them. And in my principle is like, if I'm going to go through hell, somebody's going to learn from it. So I don't want people to have to repeat patterns, or if I can help them skip steps, I am all for it. Um, but I was talking with my therapist, Amy, and I was telling her about just the trials and tribulations of life. And she said, like, you should write a book. And I'm like, don't say that. She's like, what? Like, because I feel like God's been nudging me to write a book. And I was like, and I don't want to write a book. So it means I have to have chapters. That means I have to have more life. And I feel like I've had enough life for like 20 lives. And then and we kept therapist being a therapist, asking amazing questions and we got in a little bit more on it. And I was like, man, I even know the title. I already know what it is. I know what I'm supposed to write on. Throughout the divorce, there was a Lecrae song that we'd really been gravitating to, and it's talking about going from bitter to better, but we're working on switching the letters. It is just a song that really just captivated my soul and something that I taught to my kids, and my son, he was so cute. He would always say, "But we can be order, right?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Or better, like order." I was like, "Now, granted, you do get some right, but we're not staying in the bitter lane. Like we can, we there is righteous justice. Jesus did flip tables, but we have to make sure that it will own us. It will own our physiology, and nobody wants to be around bitter humans."
Mm.
And so within that aspect, what are we doing to show up and show out in a way that is different than the rest of the world? And then from there, I ended up talking more, weekly therapy, biweekly therapy. And then we're like, oh, that's another chapter for your book. That's another chapter for your book. And that's literally what I did on my phone. So I already know my next book and I don't want to write it. I've already talked to my therapist about how much. And so she's like, well, I'm writing these because they're chapters. I'm like, I know. I already know what the title of the next book, like I already know all these things. And I'm like, oh, I don't want chapters. I don't want the story. But my hope in the writing is that it will give people what they need to hear.
And I'm curious too on that when we think about bitterness and just how it shows up. Maybe we're not even recognizing in ourselves that we are bitter, because I think that it can creep in, right, in different ways. So, can you speak a little bit to that, of just some of the ways that you can even become more aware of yourself and how you can check in with yourself and maybe shift some of that bitterness into a different kind of energy?
So I'm going to have to pause. I am so
Yeah.
sorry.
No worries.
Are you okay? Okay, I'm doing a recording and I thought that you were dying. Hey, actually, if we want a surprise guest, he won't come on here, but it's my father. And talk about like bitter to better. I'm actually going to take a pause. He's trying to get the cat out of the attic. So, just to even kind of go in on this, like bitterness, like recently, and I will say, even writing the book, there's times where I felt like I've gotten bitter because my life is still not where I want it to go, which goes
Mm.
back to that next book. I know what I have to write on is dating after divorce. And it's like, okay, it's been 2 years. Like, I don't want to have to call my dad to come fix the house, but we had a light go out and he's actually working with live electricity over there. And I'm like, okay, is he alive?
The I love the interruption, and I'll cut some parts out of it whenever you got but I love the interruption because I think that's just it's life and how things happen unexpectedly, right? And sometimes it's those unexpected moments that, again, there's a choice in our perspective towards it, so
That's bitterness. It comes at you. Like, nobody expects bitter to come at you ever. It's never expected to come at you, but it does. And when it hits, we get the choice to choose. This is what I tell my kids all the time. It's like, and that's where he got to the order part of it. But like, we get the choice to choose. Are we going to stay in a bitter lane, which makes us go into a body lane? That
Mhm.
is, our body lane is based off reactivity. Do you want to constantly be reacting to your environment? Or me, I hate being controlled. And so I want to come from a proactive side and be able to go to the brain lane. And I
Mm,
want to be able to think through these things. But bitterness, so what happens in our body is there's something called the amygdala. I call her Amy, and I love that my therapist's name is called Amy because it kind of does the same thing. Amy in our brain asks us a lot of questions, but the main ones is it urgent? Is it causing me pain? Or can I see it differently? So the only reason I stopped this, if for a thousand other reasons, I would not. But that's my father. If you read the book, you're going to understand why I'll stop the world for him. So the pain to think that, again, worst case, I'm like, is he actually getting electrocuted right now? I kind of need to figure that one out. He's not, just a cat. So is it causing me pain or is it urgent? And those two things and the urgency to see, like, if there's a problem here, I do need to address it. The pain and the urgency are the stuff that's going to make any human go to a reaction, a reactionary aspect. But can we see it differently? And that's the reason, like me, like even checking on him, it's a proverbial thing of two. We need to check in on ourselves. That's the reason what
mhm,
Amy, my therapist, did so well for me is help me check in to say, am I crazy? Is this gaslighting? Is this love bombing? Should I be like, I even had a dear friend, I write about in the book. There is a one time where our propane tank line was cut and we were almost blown up. And I called my friend. I was like, "Hey, you want the divorce update of the week? Court didn't go good, and guess what happens next day?" And also, let's talk about holidays. This was in December. This was right at Christmas, and but I had to have her check me because my natural tendencies is like fight. I'm like, I'm gonna stay in this house. This is my house. Like, you're not gonna. And she's like, No, Emily, you get to be scared. Like, you don't have to be tough for this. And it's in that breaking that you can actually get to better. It's in that breaking and it's in that story, and that's, like, even how I end my story, like, it's not rainbows and butterflies, like, there is still bitterness along the way. I am going to mediation next week, we have more court, it's not going to stop, like, and at some point, like, it's a give or take, but I will keep fighting for my kids, and it can make me bitter at times, like, I called my father, like, even doing this stuff, but called him before, it's like, "I'm so tired of this. This has been almost 3.5 years." Like, and then talk about faith too, like, I'm very open about bitter at God.
mm.
Like, you're God, like, you can snap your fingers and make everything fix. Like, if you can bring legions of angels, you can, like, fix this little problem here. And that's what I feel like a lot of people, specifically of faith too, or even in life, like, we have urgency, we have pain, and it just makes us bitter, and we don't know how to do them because we don't take the time to stop and process. We don't take the time to reflect or see how can we see it differently so that we can go, the nerdy part is go the DMN, which is like our meaning making in our brain so that we can make some meaning of this. And so that we can go to post traumatic growth instead of post traumatic stress.
Wow.
Because we talk about the stress a lot. but there's growth. And it's an endurance diaries. That's what endurance diaries is. It's all about post traumatic growth and resiliency that comes from life being life.
Amen. Amen. I love that. Thank you for that. I want to go to what you mentioned about getting bitter at God sometimes. How does that wrestle with God? Because that happens a lot, I think, within our own
Mhm.
our own faith journeys, right? We have a wrestle and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a real thing in our faith and our walk. How does that ultimately strengthen your faith and help to build that endurance for that next thing that's coming?
There's so much with that one. So the first thought, like growing up in the South, and I grew up Baptist too. And it's like you don't talk back to God. He is holy and he's reverent, and he is. But guess what? Many people in the Bible were not happy with him, and they chewed him out too. And I think that's something that sometimes we are like, oh my gosh, you can't say, like, you can't tell God you're mad at him. No, I'm freaking pissed right now. It's just like, God, like, again, you could fix this immediately. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand watching my child have to hurt. I don't understand watching my bank account go down again. Like, I don't understand why I have to go back to court. I don't understand why I can see other people like their divorces are easy, like easy, but their divorces are, and I put that under quotations,
Mm.
but their divorces are amicable. Like they actually get along. Like, and I just wish for that one day. So it's all these situations that it's like, and this is what I say a lot of times where I get probably the most bitter at God is like, you could press the easy button for me, but instead you keep giving me chapters. I was like, I understand, but I'm not that good and I'm done. Some days I'm just done writing. I'm just done. But that's just life too. Like like going in the holidays, there it's going to creep up. Like I'm not going to have a partner. Like I don't have I'm not the only one. I have a
Mm.
dear friend that like lost her loved one. And it's like there's so many different ways of like people being jealous cuz somebody got a new car. Like I'll say my ex is building a 7,000 square foot house and like I am like okay, it is fine. Like but and that's where it's reframing, it's that renewing of your mind, it's that get out of the flesh. And that's where I'm just real with God. And I journal it, I write it, and I fuss at him a lot.
There's nothing that's easy about this process, right? It's hard and not stripped of the pain and all of the things. Just because you're learning and you're reframing and you're able to, find ways to shift from bitter to better doesn't mean that that bitterness doesn't still show up. Doesn't mean that you're free from the pain and the hurt and sadness and all of those emotions. So I think that's such an encouragement to so many people, especially those who do identify with that story and see themselves in your story in that way. So, what is your hope for those people that are like, you are putting language to my experience?
I hope that they feel seen, valued, and heard. That they're not crazy. What I say is I usually do people I'm people's sanity and soul check. And that's what I want this book to be for them is to be like, you're not crazy. Like you're not alone. Um, there's a thing about having power in your testimony, like speaking it out. And yes, I'm telling my story, but can you tell somebody else? Because in a lot, I think the one thing that, and let's go with this, we're the loneliest we've ever been. There's a loneliness epidemic. And I think that is happening because we don't tell our stories. We don't allow for that bonding and belonging, which is actually called oxytocin in the body. I think I call it being hot, humble, open, and transparent, which give credit to Transformation Church, where I first heard that. But having those areas in our lives where we can just have that psychological safety. Those are so many things that are missing. And I think from that absence, I want them to see that. And I even write at the back of the book, and I mean it with every part of my being, like reach out. I want to hear the stories. I love talking to the people that have read the book already. Just the impact. Yes, it's a little like oxytocin, dopamine hit for me of like, yay, like it has a purpose, it has a meaning, like all my hell wasn't for nothing. But also for it is that I just want them to have a sanity and soul check. They're not alone. And I didn't just say you're not alone. I gave you tools and resources.
Mm.
There are reflection questions. There are exercises in every one of the chapters on things that I did throughout the way. Because what I would do is like I would process something and I'd just make my own worksheet for it. And then I'd use it for a client because I found like enough clients needed it. And then I'm like, okay, maybe let's put this in the book. And so I wrote step by step exercises.
I love that because I think sometimes, like, if you are somebody listening to someone's story and they share that overcoming and on the other side, I think some of the questions that we can have is, okay, but how? What does this practically look like, from going from bitter to better. And so I love how you break it down in that way. Is like, here are tools that you have that you can actually put this in practice. And then you can notice the shifts. And they may be subtle and small, but they're actually big when you're in it for the long haul.
And I think that's something so important that you're hitting on is that it is subtle shifts. It
Mm.
took time after time. So the other thing, nerdily, my brain went, as you said, what do you want the reader? I want their insula to assume that there's not a storm all the time. So we call the insula in the brain our weatherman or weather woman. And what it is when bitterness comes, like you expect the storm. You expect it. And sometimes you actually get the right to expect the way that you're expecting. However, how do we get it where it does not own us? It does not debilitate us. Like it does not take us out for the whole day. Like I was having panic attacks. Like the first time because of the HR and the documentation and that taught me in the divorce document, I literally had a 362-page like documentation of what I had went through. I'd went through all my text messages and I showed it to my aunt, who I do write a little bit about the book, but she is like one of the most amazing humans that I just adore and I love and I look up to. And I knew when I showed her that, how disappointed she was going to be in me that I never spoke up. Because what actually happened was as much as I do talk about faith, I also talk about the church hurt or the people hurt.
Mm.
That whenever I went through marriage counseling, I remembered so vividly. I do not write about this in the book, but like I remember so vividly. We did the test on the marriage compatibility test, and talk about being bitter at a preacher for a while. I was because our results came back that this was going to be abusive marriage, and I was like, nah, like I'm just a submissive wife. I know what this means. That's what you're reading. Submission does not mean abuse. That is not what submitting means to. It means sub to a mission, and the mission is to be like Christ. But if you aren't like Christ and you're yelling and screaming and putting your past hurts and traumas onto the people you love and lead, that's not submission. That's not something that is submittable to. And I didn't know that. And granted, I don't think I would have listened to the preacher at the time. I would have been like, it's all good. Because even remember my mother. My mother's like, are you sure you want to get married? And I'm like, yeah, like but it was the people pleasing that came in. There's so many factors along the way, but it's the little micro moments and the little things of like identifying in the insult, like this is people pleasing. This over here is bitterness. This over here can like it may be your root. Is it pettiness? Another thing that we talked about a lot in the divorce is we're gonna walk in petty and we're not gonna be priority. Or sorry, we're gonna walk in petty and we're gonna lean in on priority. So we know who we are. We all have words of the year. Mine, like this year, mine is peace. My son's is present. My daughter's is courageous. Like we know that we are wise and kind humans that are, and then we put our three words. We know that we are that. We've been doing this for 5, 6 years, and we're going to stay in that priority. That's how we're going to show up because pettiness was real easy. And I think that's the other thing too is, and I'm witty and I can be like, man, there's so many times I was like, I got mad at God because oh man, you want to talk about time I got really mad at God whenever I wrote the best chapter and it's like petty to priority. And 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 I actually had to edit out, like, 5 things, and I was like, "Those are good zingers," but God kept laying on my heart like, "Emily, you know you can't have that in there." I'm like, "Oh, but it's funny, and it's true." And then he's like, "Emily, take it out." And it's just like, "I won't bless this if you don't take it out." And I'm like, "Mm." I took it out. I'm proud of myself. And I did tell my mom, I'm like, "I'm proud of me. Like, you read that, like, you know what it said." I was good.
But I think it's also that wisdom too, right? And the ability to, like, as you're tuning in alignment with God, when you tune into Him throughout that process. And it's like, you're like, no, but I want this. Oh, but, and there's this, I think, and you were talking about this earlier on at the top of the conversation, just about if somebody had asked, I think it was your one friend had asked you, like, if God was out of your life or you take faith out of your life, would that, shift things or would it look different in that way? And it's like, I think it does. I know for me, like, it's so easy to, like, tip onto the side and to act out in anger whenever you are, you know, angry. And like you were saying before, there's righteous anger. And I always remind myself of that, like, there's righteous anger. And also the fruit of the spirit, right? We have the self-control. We have, these gifts from God that I think bring us back in, and it's a heart check. And, it's about how it is that we're showing up. And to me, that's what I care about. I care about staying in that integrity. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that you put that out on the table, and how somebody else receives that is on them. But this is, again, within my power and how I show up.
Also, even thinking of that, within the fruit of the spirit too, that is something that is of the spirit side. So sometimes, like, I walked away and I'm like, "Oh god, I give you that one. That's a point you," because I wanted to say everything I shouldn't.
Mhm.
Somehow on that one, my tongue got held. And then I could see along the way of, like, now I know why.
Well,
In the court, like, I can always see, like, in the court, I was like, "Okay, now I see this." Like, whenever my business went down because of the divorce, it was one of the hardest things, and I write about the what ifs with Workzbe. And what I found is, like, if I was at that maintaining that level of success that I was, my business would have been taken away because it would have been an asset that was so large that it would be something worth going for.
but you don't see that in the it's like,
Oh, you don't see, and that's, there's whatever the old country song of, like, God, thank God for the unanswered prayers. And
mm,
it's like, you don't know along the way. And it sometimes takes time and sometimes you will never know. And those are the not knowing is really hard. That's the reason why too, like, I don't ask why anymore. Like, because I won't ever get an answer. I can get an answer in my faith. Whenever I get to Jesus, like, in God, I'll be like, "Hey, can you tell me on this, 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 and this?" Because I really, really want to know. And I also want to, like, ask some questions on, like, how did this trend happen? Like, because there's some things in the world I'm like, that went viral and I don't get it, but okay. But there's, like, these little things along the way that we have. And I'm just curious. But if we keep leaning in towards a why, it makes our amygdala only search for urgency and pain. If we can see it differently, okay, God, I don't know why, but I know what. I know that living in a life that is better, that's filled with the fruit of the spirit, that's filled with, and people that are like, if you're like not of faith. So the fruit of the spirit, you can take that. It sounds creepy or might sound weird. Let's just take all that out. Is it okay to be gentle? Is it okay to be patient? Is it okay to have self control? Is it okay? All those things. Like, those are things that will make you better.
this is a real example, Emily. When you think of self-control and patience and kind and all those things, we can agree that that's good. But you say something like, "Oh, the fruit of the spirit," and someone's like, "Wait, you lost me there." But that goes back to, like, I can connect to this, but I can.
Yes. Yeah, and that's how I wrote the book. It's because I want that to connect. Like, just I think that we can agree on certain areas, like, to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to become angry is very beneficial in a divorce process. Just ask your lawyer. Or if you're in HR, ask your HR person. We're gonna tell you this. Actually, even if you're married, you can ask your husband. I'm gonna tell you that is just a valuable thing to do in life. And taking that wisdom and just like, can we agree on this?
So good. Yes. I want to go back to the uncertainty and the unknown, because I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to, right? Like, we fear what's on the other side. We crave, we have this need to know. And that shows up in different areas, in relationship, in work, etc. I want to touch on that a little bit because you mentioned before being in business in a season of uncertainty. What does endurance look like in leadership, in the strength to keep going when the odds might be against you?
So, one big thing that we do is we look at leading indicators versus lagging indicators. So, I think in business, a lot of times we go so much towards like a massive target or a goal. And if we're not even close to it, if we're so far off, we like freak out. And sorry, not sorry, going to put some God back into it. That I think we sometimes in our strategy, we get too strategic that we leave God out of it. And God's gonna like read the book. You'll see why I say this. The amount of times he's shown up and showed out in ways that I never thought, like I would not be in the rooms that I've ever been in if it was my design. So I think that's a part of it. But also on the leading indicators is what do you need to do today that you know will make you successful for tomorrow? What do you need to do today that will make that you know will make you better tomorrow or 5 years from now or 7 years from now? I even do this like I've always taught this within working out too. It's like, what are you going to do at 100? At 100, you want to be known for like benching so much weight, or do you want to be known for being able to hike with your grandchild or your
Mm.
great grandchildren at that time? Like, finding the habits that you want for your 100-year-old self. At 100, I still want to be patient. I still want to be kind. I still want to be better and I don't want to go to bitter. I still want to be able to like have my values, know my values, not go to petty. These are the things that I want. So that's what, no matter if it's homework or play, leaning into what is the first step or the first small step or the first beneficial or helpful step. I don't say right step because right and wrong has so many connotations to it. What is beneficial or detrimental? What is helpful or unhelpful? And you can think that through and you know, like one thing for me, and it's my thing. It's not, and I don't impose my rules on anybody else. I just know it works for me. Every Monday I go to my mountain and I have my God time. That's to set my week up. It's to prepare what I'm going to be doing. My team knows about it. I don't make them all do that. I just say that, hey, you do need a rest because we all can agree that sleep and taking time with the people you love around you is beneficial. And then, like other things that we do too is to date your spouse. Everybody that I'm around, like we know. So I don't have a spouse, but the people that I love and lead, I make quality time for them. We can again all agree that if we sow into the people around us, which does require us to sometimes like die to our pride or sometimes have to like set things aside or be annoyed. Like the people that we love the most know how to like press the buttons the best. And so within that, but we need to take time to get to know them. Like we can those are leading indicators. I know if I have hot conversations. I know if I work out. I don't and the other thing, I don't drink alcohol, but that's my thing. I don't care for other people, but I know for me, especially when I'm not dating now, but if I was, but like in the dating world, like I'm not gonna drink alcohol. That's just it makes me not think the best. So does caffeine. Caffeine gives me anxiety. I brew a cup of coffee and still smell it. Like it's how much I miss it. But I know for me, it's not like literally I made some yesterday and my son's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, "Kid, we're gonna have to work on the questions that we ask." I'm like, "Try that again." He's like, "Mom, are you okay?" I was like, "Okay, that's a little bit better." You know? But that's the thing is like going why do I need to have this like at this point? It's because I'm kind of stressed out and he knows it. And so he sees that. He knows what that is. And he knows his leading indicator is to give me a hug
Mm.
because he can't fix it. He can't talk it through. He's 14. He's gonna try. Bless his heart, he's learning. But it's the thing of like, what are the leading indicators that you know? And when you go through the book, you're gonna learn about a few of them. And I'm gonna tell you, if you get discernment to say, hey, I need to put this as a habit for this season, doesn't mean a lifetime. Could just be for a season. Do it.
Mm. It's like you're gonna read through your book and learn about you and your story and all of the things, and also you're gonna learn so much about yourself by the time that you're through because, again, I think the practicality, right? The space to reflect and to pause and to think about this and consider this differently. There's small steps that you can take to get there, and it's the same concept where it just translates in all different areas of life.
Yeah, and I see this so much specifically going in from the holidays to the new year. 'Cause everybody thinks with the clock chime, we're all gonna be better.
Yeah.
And then by week 3, we call it the dreaded week 3 because we know majority of people, like up to 90% of people drop off of whatever their said goal is. And then they get mad at the world. And then we start blame shifting on all the circumstances. It's because we want to lean into a perfect world. No, it's progression, not perfection.
Mm.
And so how do we continue to again cultivate the habits that where we can go from bitter to better, that we can be that person that we want to be at 100. And whenever we're going through any form of transitions, if you're leading or love anybody, that's what the book is, and that's what the exercises are. And that's why also I had to put my nerdy side into it to also tell you the physiology of what is happening all in your brain. Cause I think we go into psychology and it sounds kind of fluffy sometimes. And it's like, like obviously autonomy relatedness. Yes. Okay. So how does that work in the body? Well, there's the amygdala, there's the insula, there's like all these other areas. Like they're actually structures in your brain that are here for a reason. And let's figure them out so you know why you're doing what you're doing.
I love that because I think how often do people say, I just got to get out of my head? Like, I just got to get out of my own head. And I love what you say. It's like, you got to know what's going on in your head before you can get out of your head.
So I work with athletics and I work with coaches. One thing that will tick me off and get me a little like into my body, like a little righteous, we'll say flip table style. And I can get, actually, my daughter calls it my sassometer. It can go up to about 9 or 10 when a coach says they just need to get out of their head. I'm like, oh, I bet you. I bet they want to stay so much in their head to not be able to perform at all. That's their daydream of like, I'm going to make millions by being in my head. And I'm like, no, like nobody wants to be there. Like I have one of my athletes, the most precious human, and he wants so hard to not, like, have a hairpin trigger on some things that, like, just light him up, but with his competitive nature and his past like, experiences, like, he can get ticked real big, and then he knows that he has to even put himself in timeout, like, and he's mad at himself that and then it's like I talk about this in the book, shame. Shame is self-hatred at my expense. And so he's shaming himself, and so what we are like, "No, there can be some guilt with it and some grief with it, but shame, you're not wrong. You did wrong. Guilt says I did wrong. Shame says I am wrong. You're not." And so those are the kind of the things that my desire for people that read the book is that they can, like, you don't have to read it all, but just take a few pages. Like, just try some of the exercises. Just try it out. And like, my publisher will not let me say this, but like, your money back. So I can't say that, but I'm saying that, but not. But like, I just try it. Like, if you actively try these things, like, I have so much faith in them. I always say this, like, within my contracts, like, money back if it don't work. Thus far, like, the work that I do, like, we save millions, we change lives. Like, the reason we do that is because I am just looking at how a human is designed. And I'm helping people understand that they're not crazy. They're not alone. Here's a way to see yourself. Here's a way to understand yourself. And maybe here's a way to go from bitter to better.
It's such an innate need of us to be seen and heard, and like you were saying, to just feel like I'm not crazy. Like, sometimes I just pick up the phone and call a friend or call somebody I trust, and I'm just like, I don't need anything but for you to just remind me that I'm not crazy. It makes sense why I'm feeling this way. Let me tell you what happened, and that's it. But I think it's just it speaks to that need, right?
Yeah. And I think the thing, too, though, that's different, I will add a caveat to this is if we're wrong, tell us we're wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not validation of like, "Hey, I'm right, look at," like, we don't want groupthink. We want, like, it's like, "Check me."
check me, check me.
And that's what the book, is around, and, like, and the people I'm like, it's a check me. It's
Yes.
like, I feel crazy. I may have said some things wrong, and people will tell me like, your tone was," let's be real. My kids will tell me everything. I've trained them to tell me, Like check me. It's my first time being a parent. It's my first time being a business owner. Everybody that I love and lead, they get to check me because I'm investing in them as much as they're investing in me.
And that builds trust. It's been the tough love. It's been the people in my life who have come alongside me, challenged me, pushed me, and create the space to think differently about that thing that I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I need. And sometimes I'm like, was maybe a little bit harsh, but I need that. And it builds trust with that person. And those are the relationships to me that's like, it's everything. Like at the end of the day, it's everything. So,
Yeah, I love that you say that because I used to say, like, when I'll tell my athletes with this too, anybody, a coach or a worker, I was like, we're going to have a love relationship. And when I say love, because First Corinthians love is to be patient, kind, honest. That honesty sometimes that can really get us, and not boast, patient, kind, honest, understanding, and not boasting ill will. Those are the ways. So I'm going to love you through this, and I'm going to love you on a way that might not feel love. But like growing up, did you not have coaches that, like, if they quit talking, something's wrong? And I've wanted my athletes, I'm like, oh, sweet human. I was like, I know you don't like me right now. I was like, but I want you to know I'm investing in you because you have influence and I see your leadership ability. I said, you get the choice to see what you want to do with this. But I also have a standard that we're going to stay to, and I believe in you. And so when I'm hard on you, whenever I am silently calling you out, like we talk about in a group, he knows I'm talking to him. I won't ever look at him, but he knows in that situation, like what I'm mentioning, I am making sure that he knows that this is that tough love, that you have so much influence over the whole entire group. And if you don't understand that, and if you don't care and you don't steward it well, I'm going to get bitter because we
mm,
ain't getting better. I
yeah,
said, and we got to do something with that. And so there's standards. There's that tough love is just, it's so needed. It's within my mission statements to create a space for accountability and connection, not for here and now, but for 7 generations to come. We have to build the connection. But whenever we have that, we have to hold things accountable.
for sure. And yeah, like you said, for 7 generations to come, it's like you're in it for the long haul, right? This is the long game, not the short game. And I think just in the spirit of going from bitter to better, when I think about the coaches and people in my life that I've had, it's like all of that kind of tough love. I remind myself it's ultimately for my better. And when I think about that, it's so true because it's like these things ultimately you're better, you're going to be better for it when you partner with that process and just come into it and not resist it because of this of your own.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too is sometimes the people that are trying to tough love on us might be wrong, but they're still
Throwing
better
more
from it.
caveats in here.
Yeah, and it's like everybody, my Matt that works for me, he always, we always talk about his gray. Like he doesn't see thing of black or white. I'm the same. But like there's a lot of gray in here,
Yeah, the nuance.
and the reasoning why is because like my divorce and things that were told to me during that time, I didn't like. It was some of the advice was just bad advice, and it hurt me. But I still say I got better from it.
Mm,
And so no matter, and this is what actually, somebody just called me today because they got let go of an organization. They're just really upset. And I said, now we can look at what you don't want to go back to.
mm.
And I think that's the other thing within bitterness is like whenever you're in these hard seasons, like this passion that you're having, it teaches you something. It's going to teach you what you will not accept. I know what I will no longer accept. And it's the thing of like, if anybody knows me, like, Emily, that was such a low bar. Yeah, it was. But I didn't love myself. I didn't know myself. But now I do. I'll never go back.
Yeah, you're learning so much, and it's those you need that. I think too, part of that, and would love your take on this, is just also in a way forgiving yourself of a time where you think, "Oh, I should have known better, I would have done," but it's like, but you only knew what you knew at the time. So how can we forgive that person in that time, but the not knowing, forgiving the not knowing, okay, now you've grown in wisdom. And so the next decision that may look similar to that, now you have that discernment and you may do things differently. And that's where the growth comes in.
I love that you say that because that's actually the first exercise I talk about is should statements and stop shoulding on yourself.
Yes, I love it.
And so that's what we
Take your
will keep.
power back.
Yes, and that's it. It's like, "I shoulda did this, I shoulda." Okay, like, mark them out, yes, there's your statements, but what can you do from them? And notice them, I should. Okay, you didn't, and what would you do next time?
Mm,
But knowing this too, that there is going to be a next time. I think we get tested over and over again. There's going to be a next time, and that's where I also got myself. And I see this people when people get divorced. It's like I'm never getting married again. Well, then you're letting that past life own you. So that's not something that I would like. But you've hopefully evolved. You are not 30 or the younger person of you. You're not that same person. Can you see along the way of all the things you've learned since then to know why you won't do that again? I'm not saying you're not going to do it perfectly, but you've learned. And there's been people along in different scenarios, typically I say different faces, same scenarios. And I've experienced that of like specifically within the dating thing. It's like, "Oh, I see what I did there. I did it that time, not as bad. Okay, third time, I stopped it this time. Go me." And you can learn along the way if you choose to. But
yeah.
you have to start by stopping the shoulds and stopping the shame.
I love that so much. I could go on for many reasons as to why I love it so much, but it's because I've had to work through it myself and realize that and it's even something that I personally get triggered if somebody says something to me like, "Oh, you should do that." Out of like no ill intent, right? It's all good intention. And I'm like, "No, you're taking away my power to choose." And I
Mhm,
think that's the key part in that is that we have the power to choose. And so when you trap yourself, you limit yourself in that should statement. And also another point too is like my version of what's good isn't always what's good for me. And so
mhm,
I think a statement that I say when whenever you talk about the learnings of something or maybe you have this disappointment in a season or you get let go from a job and like let this be good and know that your version of what's good isn't always what's good for you. And so that
mhm.
blows my mind in the sense of it opens me up. I think it's that posture of possibilities with God. And so what does this mean? If we believe that he is for us and that he is good, then can I come into that belief? And I don't know what that's going to look like. And that goes into that like, oh, the unknown and what's on the other side. But can we trust that it ultimately could be for my good?
And I love that you talk about it. It makes me think of one of my dearest friends. Her name is Medi, and she works with suicide prevention. She's one of the top suicide speakers. Both her brothers died by suicide on years apart. And just like, it's like, where's the good? Like, there's some, like, the
Mm,
hurricane that just happened with Jamaica. Where's the, like, and I think, like, what we're saying, we're not trying to throw up positive psychology on people. We're not trying to say that there's not grief in this.
mm,
But what can we do to grow from this? What can we do? And that's why I love Medi so much. It's just like she has used her story to help countless people in the world understand the signs of suicide.
mm,
And it's like I don't talk about it openly in my book, but whenever I was younger, I always wrestle with this if it's called sexual assault or if it's a what else you call it or whatever. But a dear friend, which I found is a very common within females, like a dear friend, they would say no, 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 and they would still press themselves on them. That story I've talked about on stage a good bit because it actually almost led to my suicide. And I'm very open about my mental health struggles and that I had whenever I was younger. And the reason why is because statistics support it that from age 12 to about 22, the second leading cause of death is suicide. And so speaking up and like these painful moments, and I feel like if I tell my story of like, there's got to be good from it. It's not like there's got to be good from it
mm.
at some points. And then it's like you go from there's gotta be good of like, okay, I think there's good. And then you're like, oh, I see there's good. There is good.
Gives me goosebumps.
Like that's what's happened with like even my book and stuff. It's like, okay, God, I've already had multiple people reach out and are like, I started my business because of you. Like I stepped out and I see now like where I was at. They're like, "I worked on my marriage because of you. I changed it because of." I'm like, "It's not me." I'm gonna say, like, I'm gonna always point it back to a higher power, but, like, I see that, and that is what I hope also is, like, there's gotta be good, so there is good.
And that's the power of our stories and sharing our stories,
Mhm.
right? The possibility that somebody can connect to hope in that, whatever that looks like to them. That connection to hope, I think, is everything.
And I think I'm gonna point this back to how you began the talk too, is that you talked about faith and science. Faith has hope. Science doesn't really. They have thought, and there's some things with it. That's the reason why too, like, in that I have to have faith because it gives me hope. And that hope that there is good, hope that there is something greater. There's hope that there's something outside of my control. That I don't know the ultimate narrative of this story, but I know who holds it all in control. And I am going to continue to hope on that fact that I am loved, I am valued, I am seen, and I am known. And that is what helps us go from bitter to better.
So good. Emily, thank you so much for being here and being part of the podcast. So much of this conversation just speaks to the heart of Endurance Diaries, and so I love that we're able to have this conversation in this space. So much to learn from and just take in and consider and to reflect on and ponder and really be able to connect to hope in different ways, right? And finding meaning in our process and trusting that something better can come out of even the hardest seasons. And as we go into the holidays, I think this message couldn't be more timely. And so thank you so much. I can't wait to get the physical copy of the book in my hands coming soon. And I know for the impact is going to go far beyond, with those who read or listen to the book. So thank you so much. I value you, your friendship, and just appreciate the time and being here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to call you a friend. I am honored to spend time with you, and you're just a blessing. So thank you for the opportunity.